For nearly 4 decades, Swedish photographer Torleif Svensson has captured the energy, drama, and fleeting intimacy of live music. But there's one assignment that would give him a unique place in rock history. In the summer of 1986, Torleif joined Queen on what became their final tour with Freddie Mercury. From his position close to the stage, he photographed the band at the height of their powers and captured some of the last images ever taken of Freddie performing with Queen. At the time, of course, nobody knew that these extraordinary concerts would become the closing chapter of an era. And for more than 30 years, many of those photographs remained in Torleif's archive. Now they have become a book and exhibition, Queen, The Last Tour. Today, we meet the man behind those images and discover what it was like to see Queen through his lens. Torleif Svensson, welcome.
Thank you.
Recently, you had an exhibition in Bologna, and they were of photographs of yours from Queen's last tour with Freddie Mercury. Yeah. And first of all, I'd like you to tell me what you felt the connection was between the museum and then putting your photographs on, because it was a very special setting for these.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, it's the most exciting thing was to see my very large portrait of full-size picture on Freddie Mercury standing under Vivaldi, a painting of Vivaldi, and the castrate singer of Farinelli. And that's so cool, yeah. They had 6, 7, 8 of my photographs in different parts of the permanent exhibition of the museum. And the museum is actually famous because it's a museum that have very, very rare original things like Mozart first notes. The first notes he wrote as a 14-year boy. It's fantastic.
Oh, wow. What was the reaction of the visitors to your work?
I saw a lot of pictures on Facebook afterwards, and all of them were one selfie, more or less, close to this very big Freddie Mercury. And actually that one is also the last picture of Freddie Mercury on the concert together with Queen. It was from Knebworth, 1986, and it was the 9th of August. And I was there. Yeah, it was exciting. Of course, you didn't know it was the last concert, though.
Let me just go back a bit, because I'd like to know how you first came to photograph Queen.
Yeah, do you want a long story?
I want the whole story.
I was a land surveyor a long time ago. And I happened to be head of a photo lab taking care of aerial film used for mapping. And I had a lot of photographers working with me there. And it was dark rooms, and it was reproduction of maps. And it was 60 people working there. And I think all of them had more fun than me. But I should go to a graphic fair in Birmingham, but I wanted to stay in London because I wanted to go on rock concerts during the evenings. And then I saw in Time Out Depeche Mode were playing on the Monday. I came on the Sunday night, and on the Monday Depeche Mode were playing. And I went there with my camera bag. I had some experience with music photography before, and I knew you cannot just go inside with the professional camera equipment. But I went to the box office and I told them there is a fax here from my magazine. And of course they didn't find a fax because I've never been working for a magazine. And I looked probably very sad and said to them that Depeche Mode is coming to Sweden in a short time, and I really need to have pictures of them. And then they let me in with the press photographer, so I could shoot during 3 songs. So, and then I had to pack my equipment down, but I could stay and listen to the concert. So it was a way of having a free concert ticket and listen to the concert. But of course, I also got a lot of nice pictures during these 3 songs. And the week continued, and there was Ultravox, there was Jethro Tull playing that week, and on the Friday it was Queen, and they played at Wembley Arena, and I did the same trick every day. So that's the start of this story. And then I went on my business trip when the graphic fair were over, and I passed Liverpool. And in Liverpool, there is a Beatles museum, and it was newly opened. 1984 is this. I'm talking about 1984. And of course, I went to the Beatles museum and enjoyed it, of course. I was a Beatle fan more than a Rolling Stone fan. Today, I'm probably opposite, but if I don't count Queen, of course. But when I came out to continue with my rental car, there was a big stone in the back seat, and somebody had crashed the window, went into the car, and somehow got into the booth where I had my camera equipment. And they took, of course, my camera bag. They didn't want something else. But in the camera bag, I had my 50 exposed film rolls with more or less 36 exposures on each roll. And I lost them all. I never seen those pictures developed. I think the thief, he didn't care about these film rolls. So I was crying, and I was traveling around or walking around in the city, looking in dustbins, places, or in ditches, or wherever. I went to the police station. Yeah, of course I didn't find it. But this theft was with consequences, because I got so focused on taking pictures of Freddie Mercury again, because that concert was the most memorable during that week in London. I didn't give up. I wanted to have pictures on Queen, but I had to wait for 2 years. And then I heard they were playing in Montreux on a televised rock festival. It was called Golden Rose Rock Festival, I think, in Montreux, and Queen was there as a head act. I didn't want to gamble this time. I really wanted to have pictures. So I called to what you call a celebrity, not celebrity, a glossy magazine, you know, the celebrity things. And yeah, and I thought they will not have a photographer covering a rock festival in Montreux. So, and of course they didn't have, and they agreed to send a fax to the organization. So when I came down there, I could take the pictures of Queen, and there was a lot of bands there. Even Depeche Mode were playing at that time. Then I thought, I was in South Africa some years before, because I have cousins there. It was during the apartheid, and you shouldn't go there during apartheid. But I went. I wanted to see my cousins in their normal surroundings. They have been in Sweden for a couple of times, but they never lived here. So it was just short meets. And of course, I was very excited to see South Africa. And Queen were playing in South Africa, in Sun City, the Las Vegas of Africa. There was still signs only for whites on the benches in the parks, on the trains, and so on. So I was, of course, it made you sort of depressed to see all this. But I wanted to talk to Queen, their experience about South Africa. And I was standing around, I was hanging around more around the hotel that where I knew that they were staying. And Brian May came down in the lobby. And I, as a quite young, naive Swedish son of a preacher man, actually my father was a pastor. And I went inside and presented myself and said to Brian May, I'm a photographer and I want to talk to you a bit. And he's very interested in photography. Maybe you know he's collecting stereo photo from ancient time, from the last millennium. It was very easy to talk to him. And of course, we also talked about South Africa. And then suddenly he says, we have chartered a boat on Lake Geneva tomorrow. Why don't you come with us? And we continue talking tomorrow. And I didn't hesitate for a second. Of course, I went with them the day after. And now I was sort of buddy with Brian May. I mean, he recognized me and he heard my story about the stolen film rolls. The last tour of Queen, it's called the Magic Tour. And it started in Stockholm, my city. And I had a small exhibition in the warehouse and Nordic company warehouse. It's like Harrods in London, more or less. Of course, not that big and famous, but it was a nice venue for my pictures. I had a whole wall there outside the record store, and I finally could put up my Queen picture on that wall. And then Enko told me, why don't you make a very big picture and we can have it in the window over the time when Queen are playing here, this world famous band that had played and during the Live Aid just the year before. I ordered a picture printed on fabric. In this technique you can see now, you can see wrapped buildings, big buildings with this kind of pictures. But at that time it was only 3 machines in the world that could do these pictures. And actually one was outside Liverpool. So I ordered one from there. It was 8 square meters. The problem was it just came the day before the concert and this warehouse had to do the window design already. So I had a 8 square meter picture. What should I do with that one? Too big for my small flat. So I went to the stadium where the concert was and I asked for the promoter, Thomas Johansson. He was very kind. He told me, why don't you put this picture backstage, just like an honor for Queen? And I did. And of course, I had got a backstage pass, so I could meet the band afterwards. And I met Brian May, and I didn't meet Freddie that time in Stockholm, but I met the others, and we had some photo session backstage. And I had this very big picture of Queen from Montreux, and I had Brian May to stand in front of it. And it was big enough it looked like he was part of the picture. Twice, I mean, of course he was in the picture. The day after, I got a phone call from Grand Hotel where the band was playing and staying. And Jim Beach, the manager of Queen, wanted to see me. So I didn't know what he wanted. I had no idea, but of course I took some pictures with me in the portfolio and from Montreux, of course, and some other concert pictures from other concerts. And I did a lot of experimental pictures. I used long exposure time. I used to zoom and move the camera and when I took the picture. And it got a lot of interesting graphic pattern. Yeah. And I took this with me, and I met Jim Beach, and I showed him my pictures. We talked for a while, and then he says, I heard about your stolen rolls of film with Queen. And these experimental pictures, I've never seen that in rock photography. So you're going to go on the tour with us.
When Jim said that to you, what was your feeling? I mean, it must have been, one of excitement, but was it also one of fear, or were you confident enough that this could work?
No, I was confident. I was really confident. And I had no pressure. It was not an ordinary assignment. I was invited I was free to take pictures on the tour. And of course, they expected to see something, but I didn't write any contract.
So when you say you're free, were you free without restrictions where you could go, when you could take a photograph?
What I felt, I have sort of an assignment, an invitation to take live pictures. And I had no interest to take backstage pictures. Of course, that had been very good today, but I didn't. I didn't even ask if I could, because why should I do? I mean, I can't do these experimental things in daylight, really. So I could see the press photographers. They came in for the 3 songs, and sometimes I was in the ditch just close to the stage together with them, but I was free to walk all over, and I was free to take pictures until the end. And that's why I have pictures of Freddie Mercury with the crown and the mantle, and that one is very typical for that tour, the Magic Tour.
When was the first time then that you met Freddie?
When Brian saw I had a Hasselblad camera, the Swedish-made camera from Gothenburg, and that NASA is using, or used at least that time during the 60s and 70s, and there is a couple of them on the moon. They had it on the first moon trip, and it's very famous. And of course, Brian knew about this camera, and it has a huge negative format compared to these normal cameras. And he wanted to see them developed. I searched for Photolab the day after, and I developed the films. And that evening we could sit before the concert, and I took slide film, diapositive film. So the color was right, and everything was like a printed picture. And but we had to look against the lamp, a light, to see properly. And then suddenly, sometimes, Brian told, this one we really have to show to Freddie. So I can't say if it was very early during the tour or was a little bit later, because I don't remember. But and once in a while we went into Freddie's loge, and we talked a bit, but yeah, he was not that interested. At least he didn't show that. I know he's very interested and picky about pictures when he's in them himself, but he didn't really see maybe the excitement that Brian May had with my experiment pictures. Yeah.
I mean, I know Freddie was on stage performing when you were taking pictures, but even if you're on stage, sometimes you can identify people, at the front. And if you're there with your Hasselblad, maybe he could identify you. And I'm just wondering if you felt that sometimes that he saw you and he played up to you, he performed to you, or was he was doing what Freddie Mercury does on stage, being one of the most amazing performers ever?
Yeah, it happened. It happened. And I can, when I look on my pictures, I I can see, I don't remember actually, but I can see this one was that kind. And I have a funny story. This was in Switzerland, in Zurich. And I had a friend from Sweden, a friend from my youth, and he lived in Switzerland. And I got a guest pass for him, and he could stand with me in front of the stage. And of course, he was very, very pleased and excited about this. But he had a new Lacoste T-shirt. He was a little bit pedantic. He didn't want to sweat it, to make it too sweaty. And it was very hot. And so he took it off. So he was standing there like Freddie Mercury was on the stage without a T-shirt. And you could see Freddie was, he was, you could see he was looking at him with a smile.
What for you makes a great concert photograph?
I used to say that if I like the music, I take the best pictures. But of course, with Queen, it was something more, and it was the huge light rig they had. I mean, it was on Wembley Stadium, it was 9 ton, 9,000 kilograms, only the light. And this was, of course, also very important because that was what I used when I do these experimental things. And I could feel when I had a good shot.
So you could tell the moment you took a photograph, you could say to yourself something like, "That's the one. That's really, you captured something. You knew immediately."
Yeah, but it was analog. I couldn't see the result until I developed the films, and most I didn't develop every day, and most of the films I didn't develop until I came back to Sweden. And it could take 1, 2, 3 weeks before I saw the result.
So tell me about that process. When you're developing them, there is an excitement to it when the picture starts coming to life. So for you, when you have done some of the most amazing photography on this tour, and pictures that today mean probably more than they did then, because now in retrospect we know it was Freddie's last tour, and we see it differently. So at the time, though, was that a very exciting process?
Every time, even now, when I mostly, or always, I should say, take digital pictures, I long for the time when I'm back home and I can look at my pictures. And at that time, you were sitting over a light board, the face got hot and red because it was warm light from the light board, and you were sitting like this, examine all the pictures, and when you found the good ones, it was exciting.
Don't go away, there's much more of Torleif coming up. Now, if you want to know where the exhibition is going, take a look below in the text. And also, there's a link to get hold of Torleif's book. There are more images of Freddie Mercury and Queen coming up, so don't miss that. What was the atmosphere like on that tour? Was it one of sort of, this unstoppable band and performer on stage? Or was it one that in retrospect you look back and say, oh yeah, Freddie did look tired? Or is that just something that is ridiculous? It was, at the time, really just a massive, fantastic tour.
Of course, it was the most visited tour that Queen have done, and it was 2 million people during the tour that saw the concerts. And I have a friend, he saw all the concerts, so it was not 2 million exactly, because some of them went to several concerts. And I have to say also, I didn't go to every concert because I wanted to have all the indoor concerts, and because there I could be sure that it was in the summer, it started in June, and it's almost midnight sun, at least in Sweden. But so the concert maybe ended when it was still daylight. So I didn't go to everyone. So I went and I came back home and I went again, and yeah. So I can't say I noticed myself, but I know it was, yeah, if you read some of the books that were more close to Freddie Mercury than I was, they had to convince him sometimes that he had to go up on stage.
These photographs were unseen for decades, weren't they? They were in your possession, but you hadn't.
I developed them. I always developed my films and I looked through them. But then I put them in my archive, because my idea was to make exhibitions of my pictures, not to. I never show them to magazines or newspapers, but I show them to Queen. So Queen have used some, and the first one they used was on the Live Magic, the live album from that tour. And but then I put it back in my archive, and I didn't forget them, of course, because they were still there, and I was still thinking of having these exhibitions in the future. And I thought that when Freddie died 5 years after the tour, I thought maybe now it's time to show them. But I was lucky enough to have a lot of assignments in my photography. So 10 years after the tour, I was thinking maybe and 20 years after the tour, and 30 years after the tour, and Freddie got 70. And no, I missed all these opportunities. And it's also very expensive to do photographic exhibitions, and I wanted to do it properly. So I have museum glass on my frames now, and I have hardwood like oak frames, and it's quite expensive. But when I saw the film Bohemian Rhapsody, I thought, now it's time. So I called a friend. He had almost made joke of me, because he heard my story. I told this story, of course, to everybody that wanted to listen, or even those who didn't want to listen. And so he told me, "Do you have any pictures of Queen? When can I see them?" So then I called him and I said, "You're going to see the pictures now, but you have to help me." So he was kind enough to pay for all the exhibition collection, and he also paid for a very exclusive book that I call Queen: The Last Tour. So what I show now, for instance, in Bologna now in the museum, it's his private collection. So I'm very pleased to have these pictures of him, his pictures, and I can continue as long as I want with this exhibition tour that I do now.
When you went into those archives for the first time, all those years later, what sort of emotions came back for you?
I think it was one of my best years. This was 2019, and I started to go through all the pictures, and I found maybe 500 good enough to choose from. Some are like side pictures from the others, so you couldn't use all of them, of course. And So I found out I have pictures for more than an exhibition. I have pictures for a book because it was not decided from the beginning. And yeah, it was so fun to sit in my archive and do this. And I think I spent month to look through the archive, and then of course, since it was slide film, diapositive, when you scan them, it also takes time, of course. And then when they are scanned, then you have to clean them because there is dust on the film, and you have to do a lot of Photoshop work. Yeah. It was fantastic year, the best year that I remember now, recent year at least. Of course, I have children. I can't neglect them.
But did you discover photographs that you didn't know or you'd forgotten that existed?
Listen, I remember one very good picture. I remembered one. No, I remembered two. One of them Queen had used on different publications. So I remember that was an experimental picture of Brian May, and I like it very much myself. And the other one was like a signature picture for the whole show. It was for the whole tour. It was Freddie standing on the anchor when he's coming with the crown and the mantle, and the mantle is going like this, and there is Brian May standing, and it stops on the head of Roger Taylor. So that picture, I call it "God Save the Queen," by the way, because they were playing "God Save the Queen" during that time, during that session. But I only found a duplicate, and the duplicate at that time. Today the digital duplicate, it's the same, but at that time a duplicate was a copy of the original, even if it was still a slide. So I searched and I searched and I searched, and finally I found it. But those are the only two that I really remembered from the time then when I took them. So I had so very good surprises when I found good pictures. And the cover of the book I found after I have searched in the archive through everything once and twice. And the third time I found this extraordinary picture, in my opinion, that we later on used for the cover of the book.
I think what's really fascinating is when you look at pictures like your pictures, they do two things. You look at the photographs for what they are, but you're also looking at partially your own memories because you're looking at the past and what you remember of the past at that period. So it's a combination of emotions, and they work on different levels.
Yeah, the memories comes back, and I remember that time I was brought up in a small village in south of Sweden, and as I told you, my father was a pastor in a church, and I was not very much exposed to the rock and roll world, and I didn't drink alcohol until I was 25, and so on. And I didn't even know Freddie Mercury was a gay. And of course, he didn't admit it himself, but everybody talked about it, and I didn't know. And I couldn't see his. Of course, today you can see on films when he's strutting around on the stage. It's a lot of poses that is typical for a gay, a Freddie gay at least. And I remember also I had leather trousers, and I didn't have that when I was living in the village, and people thought, he left his belief in Christ, because now he has leather trousers. So it was. I smiled a lot when I was looking through my pictures.
What do you hope someone who is in their 20s and wasn't alive during that period, what do you hope that they take away from your photographs and understand from those times and from Freddie Mercury and Queen?
You know, Queen has so many new fans, and the film made a lot. And I think I heard that the streaming from Spotify, you know Spotify is Swedish, by the way. Yeah, the streaming of Beatles plus Rolling Stones is still less than streaming of Queen, and that's it's a sign, yeah. And often during my exhibitions, people come up to me and say, "Oh, I wish you are very lucky. I wish I could have seen Freddie on stage." And but what I do when I exhibit, I have my own lighting. I have spotlights that I bring. I had an exhibition in South Africa some years ago, and I brought my spotlights all over Africa. Of course, I was flying, but it was heavy. And my spotlights, I frame them just a picture, and it's dark around, you know. So you have a concert feeling when you go into my exhibitions.
On one side, you froze Freddie Mercury to a time, and I wonder whether you changed during that time.
I don't think I changed, but you know, the tour was an arena tour. I mean, it was big arenas, and I told you 2 million people during these 2 months. And it opened up the eye that you could do very good pictures, and you could feel a lot the atmosphere even on the arenas. And so I went to a lot of big concerts. Of course, some concerts is the best when you are in a small club or something, but I liked it. I went to a lot of festivals. We had a very large, or still have a very large festival in Denmark called Roskilde Festival, and there I have been taking a lot of pictures from different bands. So and actually I have pictures of 600 different bands, and no one is published before. No one. So I have started now, since the Queen exhibition has gone since 2019, end of 2019. So now I've started to go through all my other archive.
With all these other artists that you photographed, does anyone compare to Freddie Mercury in your mind as a performer on stage and as a subject of your photographs?
It's not only the performer, of course, but it has to do, as I told you, about the lighting and everything, and the music, if I like the music. But I have very good pictures of Prince, and of Depeche Mode, and of Michael Jackson, for instance, and Tina Turner and Bruce Springsteen. This is what is coming to me when we are talking. But you can't compare with Freddie Mercury. You can't compare with him. I mean, he was extraordinary, and yeah, all his body language was, yeah, you can't. You can see Michael Jackson dancing, of course, and his moon steps and whatever, and you can see Prince when he's laying down on the floor, or almost jump out in the audience and so on. But Freddie Mercury, I will remember him as the greatest.
Torleif Svensson, thank you so much. It's really fascinating to hear your insights into that.
I want to say one more thing, if I can. You know, for me, with my background, my uncle moved to South Africa for a reason. He was a missionary. And I went there the same year as Queen went there to play. I didn't see them, but we were there the same year. Freddie is born in Africa at Zanzibar. Freddie died of AIDS. And since 21 years, I'm working in an AIDS awareness organization in Southern Africa. So when I have exhibitions, I'm sometimes give money to this kind of organizations, also like Mercury Phoenix Trust that was started by Jim Beach and the band when Freddie died. So it's important for me. I do a lot of photography today, and that is mostly documents for aid organizations of different kinds. So that's warming my heart.
Up there is an interview I recommend. Down there is where you can find all the podcast interviews, and here is where you can connect.